So depending on the data that we're going to store in a field, we create different types of fields. Okay, suppose if you're trying to store a string values, something like numbers and the characters, then you make the field it can be a string field. And if you're trying to store only the numbers, then you can create a field as integer. Okay, and integer doesn't accept the decimal points. So if you're trying to add, allow the users to enter the decimal points, then you can create the field type as decimal. And when you create the field type as a decimal, this allows only the two numbers after the decimal point. Okay, so if you want to have more numbers after the decimal point, then you can create the field type as floating. Okay, so when you create the field type as a float, it allows up to 8 numbers after the decimal point. Okay, so let me open the incident form real quick. So there are different ways of creating the fields. Since we created the table the other day, we'll just go to the table and then create the fields directly to the tables from the table. So this is the table that we have created other day. And in order to create the fields, we can click new column. Under the columns, we have the new button. We can click the new button and add the fields to this particular table. Okay, so what is the type that we're going to choose? So if you look at this, so these are the different types of fields that we have in the system. Okay, so we have around 46 types, and all the field types are saved to this table, sys_glide_object. So this is the table which holds the different field types. And if you're trying to save any audio file, something like the MP4 file or MP3, then you can choose the field type as a audio. Okay, so if you want the customers to use the true false, then you can choose the true false, and the choice. We open the incident. Choice is something, if you want the customers to choose the options from the, choose the one of the options, one of the choices from the listed choices, then you can create the field type as a choice and add the choices to that particular field. Something like this, if you look at the category, this is a choice type field where you list some choices and customer will be forced to choose one of the options from the listed choices. Okay, so if you're trying to achieve something like this, then you can create the field type as a choice. Okay, and the color, but this is just to show the color. It will use if you're trying to use some CSS color codes. Okay, so you can add the CSS color codes and you can preview that color in the field. Okay, and conditions, if you want to enter some JavaScript, JavaScript conditions in a field, then you can choose the field type as a condition. And the currency, this will, when you have the currency field, when you create any field as a currency, it will have two sections. Okay, it will get created with the two sections. So it will be like a single field, which will have the two sections, and one section talks about the currency type. Okay, you'll have the currency symbol, that is a currency type, and the value to enter, and other section where the customers can enter the value. Okay, so all the currencies, if I choose this field, if I create this field as a currency type, let's see what happens. Okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to click submit. And we know when we can see the submit. Submit appears on the new record. And the moment you click the submit, it saves the record and takes you back to the previous screen. Now I'm just going to open this. I have the test currency field added. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to open the example table from the left navigation, like new record. Have the currency. So this is the currency field type, guys. So this is how the currency field type looks. So you have the currency type listed here. So this field has two sections, where one section holds the currency type and the other section where the customers can choose enter the value, the currency value. Okay. And if you look at this, if you want to have, it has got only limited currency types. So if you want to add the other currency types, yes, you can go ahead and add it. And all the currency types are added to a field called a table called FX_currency. And this is the table which is holding all the currency types, different currency types. And if you want to enable the extra currency types and add them to this particular list, you have to go to this particular table and enable that currency types. Okay, so we have this Afghanistan Afghani. This is currently in the inactive state. So the moment I activate this, this will be added to the currency type list. Come here, let me reload the form. Now I can see the Afghani currency symbol has been added to this currency list. So this is how you can add the multiple currency types to the currency field. Okay. And the other field types, if you look at, let's see what are the other field types we have. Yes, we have the decimal. Now decimal will allow you to enter the decimal points, but after the decimal point, only 2 numbers will be added. Okay. Date and time, field name. Now date and time, again, by this field you can understand this is only to enter the date, to store the date values. Okay, duration, again, it shows the duration between 2 times. And we have something called list. We'll discuss this in a bit. HTML, this will enable the HTML editor. So when the HTML editor is enabled, the customers can create the links, and they can also store the pictures, videos, and whatnot. They can do pretty much anything which can be done on the done in the HTML. Okay. And then what else we have? Let me go to the next. And we have the icon field just to add the icons. Integer just to the numbers, and integer doesn't accept the decimal points. It's only the plain number. Okay, and we have the IP address. to enter the IP addresses. And we have the journal. So this is again pretty much important. So the journal field is a what do you call it? No, it's a field which allows you to enter the multiple lines of text, and at the same time, this will have the timestamp. I mean, when the update has been made and who has made this update. So those details also will be captured in the journal field. So if you look at the incident form, on the incident form we have two journal fields. So let me open the incident form. So the description, sorry, work notes. So the additional comments in the work notes, so these are the journal fields, guys. So what happens at the moment you add any values, the moment you add something, enter something to this will also show you, this will be added to the activity log. And in the activity log, you can find the details, details such as who has made this update and when this update is made. So those two details will be captured when you create any field as the journal field. So journal field will allow you to enter the multiple lines of text, and at the same time, the name of the user who made the update and the update timestamp both will be captured. Okay, so let me create one. I'm just going to save this record. Okay, now do you see this? It says the system administrator test, and this is the work notes. Okay, and work notes is a journal field, and it shows who has made the update and what is the timestamp. So both things will be captured. Okay, so when you create any field as a journal, it captures the name of the person who has updated the record or made the changes and the timestamp during which the record was updated. And we have journal list. So journal list also similar. This will allow you to enter the multiple lines of text, but these, the individual who made the update and the date when the update was made will not be captured in the journal list. Okay. Okay, and we have long again. This is the integer field, similar to the integer field, but integer field has got some number limitation, and long the number of fields entered in the long number of digits which are entered in the long. I mean it supports more number of digits, okay, than the integer field. And the password field, if you want the customers to store the passwords in a field, then you can choose the passwords as a password 1 or password 2 field type. So when you have password 1, it is one-way encryption, password 2, two-way encryption. Okay, and the percentage complete, like if you are trying to show the what do you call the work completion on any of the fields. Okay, so then you can create the field type as a percentage complete. So it will give you the something like this, this, and whatever the work percentage completed, that work will be when that field will be let me create it. I mean, it will be easy to show than explaining. Let me submit. Okay, where is my new record? So this is the example record. I'm going to reload this. Now I have the percentage complete. Now I'm just going to add some value here. I'll add the value as some 60%. I'm going to save the record. Now, if I look at this in the list, okay, now do you see? It's showing me the field with the percent, whatever the value that I'm entering in this particular field, that much work will be, I mean, it will have a kind of bar, and whatever the percentage that is completed, that will be in the blue in color. Okay, so it says, another 40% is still yet to complete. So it will show you the progress of any work, that we do. So whatever the number that we enter in the percentage complete, it will also have this bar, the horizontal bar right next to the value, and this will be visible only in the list view, guys, only in the list. So if you open that in a form, you cannot see the icon right next to it. Okay, so that's what the percentage complete. And this reference is again one important field type. So we know that we most of the records. I mean, the service now follows the RDBMS concepts while saving the data, and all the records, the similar records, will be saved to one particular table. Okay, so we have in the database we have different tables, and every table stores similar different kind of records. Okay, so we have a user table which stores the user record, and the name of the table is system_user. Okay, and similarly we have the incident table. So if any individual reporting any incidents stating they're not able to log into the laptop, or they're not able to save a file. Okay, saving a file, that can be also an incident. And when they report any issue, and when the IT help desk, so we have the IT help desk here, and the individual who is reporting the issue to the IT help desk. And when this individual reports the issue to the IT help desk, and when the IT help desk records this transaction, IT help desk needs to also record who has reported this issue. Because if any incident is created without the name of the individual, that makes no sense, because the other team guy, other member from a different team, if he needs to work on that particular issue and fix the issue reported by the individuals, now he needs the name of the individual who reported that particular issue. Okay, so if I have an incident form, so the IT help desk, while creating the incidents, they use the incident form, isn't it? So in the incident form, we have a field called, one of the fields is the name, individual, the username who reported this issue. And we know all the user names database is already available in a different table. So we have a table which holds all the user records. So instead of typing the username manually, what we can do, we can establish a relationship between this field and the other table which holds all the user records. Okay, so this way what will happen this way? This way, we are not duplicating the work. I mean, duplicating it. If the user name is already available on a different table, I need not to type the username again. So I'm not duplicating my work. And at the same time, when I type the username manually in the system, okay, I, being an individual, might type the user in different ways. Okay, if you have any user, especially the uh, Indian names. So if one IT help desk guy typing the username as something else, if it is a Lakshmi, some people prefer calling it as like this, and some type like this. So what happens? So when you have this same user's name is being spelled in different ways, okay, the same user's name spelled different ways, and when we prepare the report, again, this is going to give the incorrect results, isn't it? So in order to avoid this, what we can do, we can establish a relationship between this particular field and the other table. So what happens, since the user records are already available in the user field, we, instead of the IT help desk, instead of typing the username manually, they can create a reference between this field and the user records available in the user table. So this way, we are not going to duplicate, and at the same time, the name is going to be accurate. I mean, it's going to be only, this is not going to be different to each record. So all the records reported by this particular user will have the same name. So when we have the same name, and when we prepare the reports, we are going to get the accurate results. Okay, so the reference. So when you're creating any field as a reference, the system will ask you the name of the table to which you're going to refer. Okay, I've chosen this as a reference. Now I'll say test reference. Okay, I need not to choose anything, but in the reference specification, I need to select the table name. So what is the table? Suppose this is a field. I'm saying I'm telling the system that, dear system, I'm not going to type any individual's name, or I'm not going to type anything manually in this field, but instead I'm going to bring the records from a different table. Okay, so when you're telling the system that you're going to bring the records from a different table, you have to specify the name of the record. Okay, name of the table from which the records are going to be brought in. Okay, suppose if it's the user, I'm going to create the username. Okay, so now we have told the system that this is going to be a reference field, and the table also, on the table from which the fields are being, the records are going to be referred to. Okay, so I've created the submit. When I submit and when I reload my form, we'll see how it looks. So all the reference fields will have a lookup icon right at the end of it. Okay, so by just looking at the lookup icon, looking at the field, you can identify if it is a record, if it is a reference field or not. Okay, so all the reference fields will have a lookup icon, and when you type something in the field, it will give you the suggestions. The moment I type H, it's going to give me the suggestions. Okay, so all these suggestions will be listed, and at the same time, if I am not sure the individual's name, I can directly click the reference icon, the lookup icon, and this will take me to the table which is being referred to. And since this table is being referred to the sys_user, it has taken me to the sys_user, and all the records from this table are listed. Now I can choose the individual name that I want. Suppose I should say Shanti Kumar. So I can choose the name and I can save the record. Okay. So now we have seen the reference, and in the reference field, we can only save one record. Okay, so if you're looking at this particular field, I cannot have two different users, or I cannot save the two different user records in a single field. Okay, so when I'm using the reference, at any given point of time, I can only have, or I can only refer to one record from that particular table. Okay, so I cannot refer more records. I mean, the multiple records, only single record will be referenced. Let me take this off. So every time I refer a record, I can refer only one record in the reference. But if I have to add multiple records to a single field, and yet at the same time refer to a different table and have multiple records in a single table, then I can choose the field type as a list. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and create one list field real quick. And I've choose the table, and suppose I'm going to use the same user table. Okay, here also I'm going to refer to the same user table, and I'm saving this particular field, and I'm going to reload my form. So when you use any field type as a reference, you will have, field type as a list, you will have this lock icon. In order to add the users or the records, you have to unlock it first. So I just need to click on this to unlock. So once I unlock it, I'm going to get the reference field, one field with the lookup icon. I can click on the lookup icon, I can start adding multiple users. So the moment I select the record, it will be added to the list. Now, if I choose one more, yes, I can go ahead and do that. Okay, so in a single field, I can have multiple users or multiple records listed. So that's the reason we call this as a list. And when I log this, all these records will be comma separated. They will be in one single line and they will be comma separated. Okay, do you see? This is comma separated. Now, if I want, as an individual, if I want my name to be added, I will have this add me icon. So I need not to search my name. I can directly click this and it will add my ID to the system. Okay. And similarly, I can also add the multiple users and the external individuals also I can add if I know their name. So the email icon and the add me, these two are available or visible only when I refer to the sys_user table. Suppose if I refer to a different table, let's see if we see those icons or not. I'm going to create one more list field. Sorry. I'm going to refer to the incident table for an instance. Let me submit this. Let me reload. Okay, now I have these two things. These test list is also a list field, and second list is also a list field. But in the test list, I have the icon, the picture where I can click this and get my name added. That is because this is referring to user table, and the second one is referring to the incident. That's the reason I don't have the next icon, the icon next to the log. So when I click this, I don't have the email field also. But when I click the unlock the list, which is referring to the user, I have the email ID field. Okay, and at the same time, I have the add me button. Here, if I'm referring to a different table, I don't see, I will not have those two buttons. Okay, so that's the small difference. And what else we have? Okay, script is to add the script, and we have string, which accepts both numbers and characters, numbers and letters. Okay, so these are the fields that are frequently used. The fields that we have created, they are the ones which are frequently used. And we also have a couple of other field types. And if you want to check them, just read through them in the docs when you have some free time. Okay. Any questions, guys, on the field types? Okay. So we'll do one thing. Since we know the field types, we'll just go ahead and see the field properties that we call it as a dictionary. Okay. So when I have a field created, I can create a field in any table. We know how to create the tables, and we also know how to create the fields. Of course, there are multiple ways of creating the fields, but for the time being, we know one way. Now we can go to the table and add the fields to the column tab of the table. Okay. Now, if I want to know the properties of a field, I can check that. All I need to do is just right click and click on the configure dictionary. So dictionary is a record which will have the complete details of the field. Okay. And using the dictionary, I can control the behavior of the field also, like making a field read-only or making a field mandatory. Now, if I look at this is the dictionary entry for the field called configuration item. And if you look at this field, it tells me where this field is residing. I mean, what is the table on which this field is created, and what is the type of the field? Is it the reference field, or is it the, we have just looked at the different types. So it will also tell us the type of the field and what is the name of the field. The column name, we know this is just the display name. And we have the database name. And if you look at this, we as an admin can change the display name, but not the database name. Okay. So the database name cannot be changed once the field is created. So if you want to change the name, all you have to do is maybe set this as an inactive and create a new field. But the database name cannot be changed. Yes, the label name can be changed. But when you change the label name, the historical data also will get changed. So you got to be careful while altering the field names. Okay. Now, besides this, besides the dictionary, besides giving us the information about the field, it will also allow us to control the behavior of the field. So we can make a field read-only, we can make a field mandatory. So read-only mandatory, I mean, the moment you make a field read-only, every time the form loads, this field is going to be read-only completely. The customers will not be able to make any changes. They cannot add any information to the field. Okay. And the mandatory, until unless the customers enter some value in this particular field, the record will not be, they cannot save the record. Okay. So when you select the mandatory, the red asterisk will be visible next to the field, indicating that's a mandatory field, and that has to be filled in to have the record saved. And we have one more thing called display. So let's understand what exactly display does. Now, if I go to the tables, let me go to the user table. This is the user table. Now in the user table, we have around 61 fields. Okay. And we know this user table can be referenced. Now on the incident, if I go to the incident, there are a couple of fields which are referring to the user table. Okay, so by just looking at this field, looking at the incident form, can you guys tell me what are the reference fields here? What are the fields you think are referring to different table? Okay, so we have a caller, which is referring to a particular table. We have configuration item. This is referring to another table. We have assigned to. This is again a table, which is a column, which is referring to a different table. And we also have the assignment group. So here in this form, we have 4 reference fields. Okay, and each field is referring to a different table. The caller is referring to user table, and assigned to is also referring to user table. Okay, so these are two fields which are referring to different table. But when these refer, when these are referring to a different table, the moment I select the record, when I click this lookup icon, when I click the lookup icon, every record has the multiple fields, isn't it? So if I look at this mid-server uh, user record, this user has got multiple fields. You know, we have one as the name, other one first name, the other one is the last name, email, active, and whatnot. There are multiple fields. So how do we set, you know, these multiple fields in a single field? Okay, so that's where the display comes into the picture. So since it is not possible to make all these fields visible in a single field, and at the same time, you know, we don't want to have all the fields to be visible. In fact, instead, the only primary field. So whenever we have any field which is referring to this table or these user records, out of all these fields, we want to only one field to be visible in that other field. Okay, so that is controlled by the display. Now, if I look at these fields on the user table, okay, and in the user table, I have 61 fields. In the 61 fields, most of the fields, most of the fields display property is been set to false, except one. So only the fields display property, whatever fields display property is set to true, that field will be visible to the in the field which are referring to this particular table. Okay, so in this case, if you look at the incident form, the caller is referring to the user table, and the moment I select the user record, any of the user record, it's showing me the name. That means the name field's property has been set to true. Okay, so if I look at the name, so this is the name field and its display properties set to true. Okay, so at any given point of time, you can have in a table only one field's property can be set to true. Now, if I make the city, okay, I'm just going to make the city field display property as true. So what happens when I do this? It automatically sets the other field's display property to false. Okay, so other field was name, was the name's display property was set to true previously. Since I have set the city's display property as true, the name's display property will be set to false now. Okay, so at any given point of time in a table, there will be only one field's display property will be set to true. Okay, now if I look at the city, look at the name, let's see what happens. Now do you see the name's display property is set to false now, because we have set the city's display property as true. Now, if I refresh this incident record, which has a field which is referring to the user table, let's see what happens. I'm going to choose one record. This doesn't have the city. It appears most of these things don't have this city field filled in. Oh my goodness, there is not even a single record whose city city has got some values. So let me change this. I'll just go ahead and change some other field. Most of the city. So we'll make the email, that will be. So I'm going to change the email's display property to true. Okay. So when I do this, okay, now email's display property is set to true. Now when I have any field which is referring to the user, now do you see? Is it showing me the email ID? So previously it was showing the username, isn't it? Any approver. Now it is showing me the user's email address. That is because on the incident or on the user table, we have set the email's display property as true. Okay, so that's what the display property represents, guys. So if you set the display property to true, this particular field, the value of this particular field will be visible in any field which is referring to this table. Okay, is that clear, guys? Yeah, any questions? Okay, perfect. And now we have some other options here. We have something called a reference specification. So in the reference specification, we have the table to which the this particular field is referring to, and we have a reference qualifier. So let's understand what is the reference qualifier. So we'll just go back and look at this incident table. So the incident table, when I have a field which is referring to the user, okay, and when I click this lookup icon, it's going to list all the records from this particular table. And this table, this sys_user table, can hold the active and the inactive records. So inactive records are something the users who have already left the organization. Okay, they are no longer with the organization. So do you think, because the caller field on the incident form represents the users who reported the issue. So do you think the users who have already left the organization will report the incidents? Do they report the incidents, the people who have already left the organization? No, they don't. Okay, so when they don't report the issues, there is no point we listing their names when the users click on the lookup icon, isn't it? So there is no point we listing their names. So this is what the reference qualifier is going to do. So the reference qualifier will control the list of records to be visible when we choose or when we click on that particular reference icon and the lookup icon. Okay, so when we are referring to a different table, and that table might have hundreds and thousands of records, but using the reference qualifier, you can control what kind of records can be visible. Okay, and the reference qualifier, we have there are three different types of reference qualifiers. One is a simple reference qualifier. Then we have dynamic, followed by advanced. Okay, the simple reference qualifier. So the moment you select the simple reference qualifier, you will have a condition builder, the filter enabled. Okay, so if I change this to the simple, I will have this condition builder. This is the filter. So using which I can build my condition. I'll say that, I just want to list only the active incidents. So the inactive incidents should not be visible. What is this referring to? This is referring to the CMDB CI. So I'll say only the class is .NET accessory. Application server. Okay, so whenever any user on the task table, any user clicks on the lookup icon on the configuration item field, it's going to refer to the CMDB table, and from the CMDB table, it's going to get me the records whose class is application server. Okay, so if I go to cmdb_ci.list, if I group this, now do you see now there are 33 different classes available, but what I'm telling the system, you do not list all the records, all these, but instead you list only the records whose class is application server. Okay, maybe not this one. If there is only one, when you click on this, it will going to list only the one record. So using the reference qualifier, you can control what records can be visible to the individuals when they click on the particular lookup icon. Okay, so when you select the reference qualifier as a simple, it's going to enable the condition builder. Okay, so using the condition builder, you can build your condition, and when the user clicks the lookup icon, the data will be filtered by using this particular condition. Okay, so when you use a simple and when you use the condition builder, this is going to be static. So no matter who logs into the system, they are going to get the same records. But if you don't want the same records to be visible to each user, so every time the particular user logs in, suppose being an admin, if I log in, I want to see I want to show different records to the admins. I want to show different records to the ITIL users. The moment they click on the lookup icon, the same field on the same table, when they click on the lookup icon, the records which are going to be displayed to differ. Okay, so in those cases, I choose the dynamic reference qualifier. Okay, so I choose the dynamic reference qualifier, and I'm going to create the dynamic filters or the dynamic filters in a different table, and this requires a scripting, so we will discuss this separately, guys. Okay, so you create the reference qualifier, the dynamic reference qualifier in a different table, and you call that in the reference qualifier. So the moment you choose the dynamic, it's going to enable the one field called a dynamic reference qualifier, and you have to call the reference qualifier using the call that reference qualifier here, which is created in a different table. Okay, so dynamic, the number of records or the records which are going to be displayed will differ from the individual to individual. Okay, so that's what the dynamic reference qualifier. And we have conditional, the advanced. So if you want the reference qualifier that you're trying to build, and that is not being achieved by using these two, the simple or the dynamic, then you can choose the advanced. So when you choose the advanced, what you have to do, you have to first create the script include. So there is one feature called script include, where you script your reference qualifier, and you call the script include here using this kind of script. So this requires the script, so we will just disregard it for the time being, and we will discuss this when we discuss the script. Okay, so for the time being, you need to know that using the reference qualifier, you can control the records that are visible when the user clicks on the lookup icon of any field. Okay, so there are three different types of reference qualifiers. we have simple, we have dynamic, and we have the advanced. Okay. Any questions, guys? Okay, perfect. Okay, guys. I think we'll discuss the rest of the things tomorrow. The choice list, what exactly the choice list does, the dependent value, calculate value, and the default value. So once we discuss this, we are done with the dictionary, then we can move on to the next topics. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you guys available tomorrow?
Yes, I'm available.
Okay. Okay. So you just let Abdul know if you guys are available. If everybody is available, we'll have a class tomorrow. If not, we'll meet again Monday. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay then. Thank you guys. Thank you for your time.